Welcome to our roundtable drive. It's Matthew Anderson with Sasquatch Off-Road and Rocky Mountain Sasquatch Organization.
The story with my grandparents happened in California. And I want to say it was near where the first prints had came out, where they
Oh yeah, along I-5.
Yeah,
and stuff.
I-5.
Yeah.
But I think it was after the freeway was done, because they were driving up, and it was one of the older Fords. So they pulled over on the side of the road to let the car cool down. And they had one step down off the road, right in front of them, look at him, and just keep walking across the road. And I asked my dad multiple times, is this how it was? And he's like, yeah. And my grandma tells me something kind of different, that they were still rolling when it walked past them, but.
Most the Pacific Northwest Bigfoot sightings, the bigger percentages of them I notice are road crossings, and when you get up there and start hiking around, you realize why. It's just the closer you get to the coast, the thicker and more lush everything gets, and so much cover, and so that's a lot of the sightings is crossing the road close to that area you're talking about. I've got one where guy sent it in, and he's like, my grandma hit one night when he was the passenger in the car. You know, she's got cataract problems, thick glasses, and hit it, and he saw its face and everything as they hit it, and then it limped off down the mountain, and she stopped, insisting it was a man, and she's yelling down into the gully, sir, are you okay? He's screaming at his grandma, Grandma, get in the car, that was Bigfoot.
Yeah, that would be a little nuts.
So, your grandfather and grandmother both saw this along I-5 in Northern California?
Yep.
Did they say that? Were they able to estimate the height or tell what color it was?
Yeah, and that's all I got to the story, and I didn't get the story. I mean, they passed away. So they're my great-grandparents. They passed away probably dang near 20 years ago. That's even more than that. And so I never actually talked to them face-to-face about it. It's just what I've gotten from my dad, and then I asked my grandma about it with her parents. And so they kind of both said this, most of the same. But it was, my dad said they are stopped on the side of the road, and my grandma said they're still kind of rolling. But I always thought, like I kind of for a while thought maybe, well, so the people that are seeing them, are they maybe kind of, they see them more because Bigfoot is letting them see them more, because they kind of like, okay, I feel safe with this person, or something like that, kind of like imprinting on a family or whatever. When I was talking to my uncle, he's like, I think it's because now you know what to see, you know what to look for. So the people that are seeing them more because now they know the shape, and they're able to pick it up.
So many different situations and circumstances. I know there's a very small percentage of sightings where I think it actually shows itself to scare people out of the area.
Yeah.
And of course, I believe they're smart enough to know that people can put the herd on them, so they probably choose that option very rarely. I think maybe perhaps an alpha male will show itself as a distraction and to scare people away when it's families in close proximity.
That's why I think if you see one on a road crossing, this is my theory, if you see one on a road crossing, most likely a big male trying to distract you from seeing its family. I mean,
Yeah, I had a stereotype my whole life, even though I read from a young age when my grandpa used to tell me his stories about his encounter when I was in elementary school. I used to get every book, watch every show about it and stuff, and I just had a stereotype that they were solitary creatures, met up just once in a great rare while. Well, over a dozen years ago, when we got really serious about starting this organization and getting out there as much as possible, it seems like 90% of the times when we find tracks or a trackway, we'll often find another individual or more And it started to dawn on all of us after a couple of years that they're not solitary. If there's one, there's usually at least one more, maybe a couple more.
Yeah.
So
I've had a lot of people ask me, like, they'll all start talking about it, and they're like, well, I don't really believe. I'm like, okay. And they're like, well, what about this? And it's almost like they've had questions and they've just never really known how to ask or who to ask. It's like, but isn't there just like one? I'm like, no, there's lots. Probably family groups, and they kind of like probably, when the male gets to a certain age, he might wander off by himself until he finds a mate and then creates his own family. Or I think they're just maybe a family pod and they roam, whatever, but I don't know if there's any. My thought is they're probably in a group of 5, 6 at the most, because I think they'd out eat an area if there's more than that in an area.
I never get into the debate whether they exist or not. I don't try to, I don't know. I don't entertain non-believers. If someone doesn't believe, I just tell them, I'm like, yeah, you're more than welcome to look at our sites, our videos, and here's a couple other good places, and you can make up your own mind. I don't get into that. My goal is clear, open footage of the creature, and I'm not an activist. I don't care to protect. I mean, I don't want it to be harmed, but I don't think it needs some type of law to be protected. I mean, it's not like people are dropping them dead every day. I mean, there's never a dead body showing up, so they seem to be able to take care of themselves. I'm not out there to prove anything to anyone. I just want the clear, open footage for myself, kind of my trophy of Bigfoot, a clear, open footage, since I'm not going to harm the creature. And then if I stumble across definitive proof, like a body or a part of a body, I'm not going to step over it. I'll definitely collect it for science. Because of the hair that we collected, sent to a bunch of laboratories 10 years ago, I already know the process. I already know not to send it all to one location. You split it up. You hide away a sample for your personal self and all that. But yeah, my goal is clear, open footage, and I'm not going to twist anybody's arm or try to convince anyone.
I've had people tell me, like, I don't believe. I'm like, okay. And then just pretty much leave it at that. And then later on or whatever, they'll be like, well, what do you think about this? And it's obviously, they may not believe, but they also think that there is possible. Because they always come back with questions. What do you think about this? And they're trying to, it's almost like, I don't believe, but I want to believe, so why don't you how about some more information?
Within my family, I have such a large group of people in my family that have seen it with no question in their mind. Like, on my dad's side of the family, every one of his brothers, sisters, parents, all saw it together on their gold claim in the mountains near Mount Home, Idaho. They all saw it daytime, and all agree they saw the same thing, a Bigfoot. And then my grandfather, he saw it one time before, like 50 years before that, him and some friends, or, well, I shouldn't say 50 years before that, it's probably more like 25 years before that. And then my dad and my Uncle Doyle, they both had one walk through their camp when they were just laying on the ground in their sleeping bags by the campfire, and it came through their camp at night, and it brushed up against my dad's sleeping bag and arm. And both of them say it's Bigfoot. Scared the crap out of both of them. My Uncle Doyle, I guess, my dad said he drew his .45, and my dad says he was shaking like Barney Fife. Scared him so bad. So, that side of the family has all seen it, so they're all knowers. And that's what got me into the subject, is at a young age hearing about all this, I'm just like, oh, it's real.
Down out there. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's all right. Oh, I was looking clear up in the mountains. I'm always seeing deer and stuff through here.
I don't even remember the exact, like, what actually got me into it. I just know I've been into it for a very long time. My uncle lived in Idaho. I don't remember exactly where. He's told me stories. He was northern Idaho, like, and he lived
up in the Panhandle area.
Yeah, it was like in the wintertime, like in the summertime, they lived in a log cabin. They didn't have a door on their house. In the wintertime, they hung up quilts over the door. And it, like, and once a week they'd go rent a hotel so they could shower and everything.
Wow.
They called it the Benoit Screamer up there where they were. And it was the town, I mean, I was like probably 8 or 9 when he was telling me the stories. And they'd have like neighbors' horses that had claw marks on them on their hindquarters, like it was like a handprint claw mark. And that's what. And he kind of shattered my what I thought they were, because watching Harry and the Hendersons, he's like, oh no, they're not kind and nice like you'd think they are. So he told me all these stories, and after that, even like I lived in the Washington Terrace, I wouldn't sleep in my room for a week. I slept on the couch upstairs. And my mom told me, she's like, you can't tell them stories like that anymore. But my dad had, I want to say it was probably my dad that got me into it. My dad he used to cut trees up in Washington, Oregon, Christmas trees with my uncle. And they went to go scout an area.
Did they do it commercially?
Well,
they sell Christmas trees?
They sell Birch's trees in Riverdale.
Oh, they're still into it.
Yeah. Okay. So it's the one that they set up there, right over by Wendy's and by that one.
I know where that's at.
Yeah, that's his lot that he does it. But this was probably this probably happened to my dad 30 years ago, and they climbed up a tree to kind of scout and look. And they kind of pulled over to have lunch. And they heard something like scream out of yell, and I don't remember what my dad said it sounded like, but he said he'd never heard anything like it before. And then they just got a whiff of garbage and body odor, and I don't know how high he was up in the tree, but he just released and fell down the tree pretty much. And they jumped in the truck and took off, and like the cooler and everything spilled out the back. And they're trying to get the 1022 out of behind the seat. And they crossed that area off their list to go. Yeah, we gotta stop into his shop. He's gonna show us on Onyx Maps on where we can go.
We're bigfooting on private property today. Property I've been trying to get on for a while, and Matthew Anderson is able to get us access today. I know several people personally that have saw the Bigfoots along Hardscrabble Creek in the Willows. When Casey's sighting happened, him and his buddies worked for a guy that owned the lot. They were ranch hands.
Yeah.
And they had all graduated from high school. They're all 4 of these guys are the same age, and he let them use the cabin for like 4 days, just as a celebration of graduation. And then that night they were just kind of farting around by the fire and gonna get ready to roast, go down there. But anyway, after he had his deal, none of them wanted to stay the night. They left their shindig, and when one of the dudes had seen it that he was with, he was actually working on that rancher's Hardscrabble property 2 or 3 weeks before, and he'd saw it from a distance. So he automatically, there was only one dude wanted to stay, but he wasn't going to stay by himself, so they left. That night, they tried getting a hold of me. Mike, his uncle, is one of our guest corps members. He goes on a lot of expeditions with us. Well, they tried getting a hold of us so we could come on the property and investigate. Well, Jenny and I and Derek, we were Uena's Christmas Meadows doing a Bigfoot investigation already, and none of us had cell phone reception up there. So on the way home, like 3 days after it happened, my phone blows up with text messages, voicemails, and everything, and they're wanting us to come. So I call right away as we're, I think it was Evanston that all this stuff started hitting the phone. So I called them, and stuff, and I'm like, I'll be right over there, and they're like, yeah, they don't have access to the property anymore. If you would have called the day earlier, we could get you right on there. They're like, we're going to try and get you on there anyway. Well, the guy that owned it was on vacation in Europe. Anyway, by the time the guy come home from vacation and stuff, he's like, nah. So, anyway, I just haven't had a chance to look down in those willows.
When we were in high school, and shortly after high school, we used to go up on his grandma's lot. We went all over up in there and like had access to other places, and so we'd walk all the way up past out of their land. But now it's, I don't know.
Well, Jenny and I considered jumping the gate. Told me an $800 fine if you refuse to leave. I don't trespass knowingly. I don't knowingly trespass. I just like having respect for people's things. The other person that we know that come face to face with Bigfoot besides Casey down in those willows, Jenny's friend that's been cutting her hair, dyeing her hair, doing her nails for years, knows she's in the Bigfoot thing, and she's like, I told you about what happened to me and my husband when we were camping on our family property in Hardscrabble. And Jenny's like, no. Well, they're out at the campfire. Her husband goes down into the willows to relieve himself, and he walks into the willows, comes face to face with a Bigfoot, and same description, dark brown, black like the one that Casey saw, has a male part. They estimate 9 feet tall, and it's easy to get an estimate in willows because a full-grown willow you get anywhere from 9 to 12 feet tall. It's easy to tell, so may very well have been the same Bigfoot. So she tells Jenny about it. Jenny comes home after getting her nails done and says, guess what? My nail girl told me. And I'm like, what? Hardscrabble? She's like, yo. So those are the two people we know on Hardscrabble that personally that have come face to face with it. Then the Casey's friend at the same sighting location saw it during the daytime at a further distance than Casey. Casey was like within 20 feet of the thing.
Yeah.
And it took a couple of steps towards him to get around the willow that it was hiding in to walk off into hiding. And Casey was so close to it that he could see its skin under its hair. The skin was dark gray to black. He saw its man part, so he knew it was a male creature. Even though it knew he was there, he's the one that scared it up, is why it stood up, laying there in the willows watching him. It would not look directly at him. It would not acknowledge him as it walked off.
I've had people tell me that just random, like, oh, I think there's something out there. I've heard stories from up in Morgan, and I'll have people tell me they've had on the front side in Farmington stuff happen to them. So yeah, I think that they just go, it might be the same group or the same ones going back and forth from the front side and the back side.
Gosh, you can see the Farmington peaks from right here in the foothills of Hardscrabble. There is so much private property from Morgan to Farmington that the creature living on these properties, using the properties, go unmolested because it's not public property. It's just who owns it, and that takes access from the thousands and thousands down to the hundreds.
Yeah.
And then of course people just stay on their little lots. Yeah, it's exciting when you get to go to Bigfoot sighting places on private properties or reservations, which is very far and few and in between, especially reservation property. I get a lot of Native Americans or First Nations that tell me their stories and stuff, and then they get real quiet when you ask if you can get on, or some of them say, hey, I can get you on, and then when they go ask elders or council members for permission, it's usually a no.
Yeah.
I don't blame them.
And that's, you know, I've heard encounter stories, you know, listen to all the encounter stories and everything of where people had access, just like people that weren't doing the Bigfoot stuff, they had access to native land, and then when they had an encounter, they tried to get back on with cameras and stuff, and they were met by the elders and their camera equipment taken and pictures deleted, and it was given back to them, but they had gone through and deleted anything of any information on it, and they were told never to come back.
A tribe of Blackfeet in the Montana area, they watch our videos, some of the members, and saw that we go onto skinwalker territories and stuff, so they wanted to do some protection rituals for the members in our organization and everything, and I'm like, sure, and they invited us out to do them, and of course I was like, oh, it'd be so cool to film all that, and I asked, and they're like, oh, no cameras are allowed, please don't bring cameras onto our reservation and stuff, and then we couldn't make it, and they said, can we do this anyway in your guys' absence? And I was like, heck yeah, I'll take all the protection I can get.
Yeah.
So
I like hearing stories from the natives, because I hear people, listen to that. I listen to Sasquatch Chronicles, and a lot of people on there talk about the Bigfoot being aggressive with them, which I believe they are, but I also believe they're only being aggressive because you're in their territory and they're trying to scare you out. And if you leave, that's fine, but if they'll leave you alone. Or I've only heard of one encounter where the Bigfoot harmed the person. I don't know if you heard it. It was a guy, he was running up in Oregon or Washington, and it was during the fires and droughts, and the Bigfoot took a bite out of his arm and took his forearm.
Oh, I haven't heard that one.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was kind of like the story goes, he was just running and he seen something, like he was hanging onto the tree with like the tree trunk with his hands and his feet, kind of suspending himself, and about 10 feet away, then it leapt from the tree and kind of like on top of him, and just smelled him, ripped his fanny pack off and went through that. As he was smelling him up one side, went down the other side, lifted his arm up and just took a bite and just took his arm and then walked away.
Yeah, they're not the cuddly teddy bears that some people want them to be. In order to survive in the wilds, you gotta be tough and you gotta be mean at times. And I understand the territorial thing. If you're in a place that they deem theirs, I understand them being territorial. Just walk onto someone's private property that's clearly posted and see what kind of a reception you get when they see you on your property.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think they could be not aggressive, but I feel they are closer to humans than they are to ape. And so I believe they still have, like, all animals have a personality, and they could be violent, and there could be violent ones, just like there are with humans. There could be ones that don't want confrontation.
Well, the two that I've seen, I know Bigfoots can go down on all fours. I have not seen that. I've seen evidence of tracking them where they go down on all fours with their hand and knuckles. But the two I saw had a human profile.
Close to that bank for you to get out.
Let me see. I got plenty of room.
All right.
Okay, so we're walking from here?
Yeah. There has been mountain lion sightings up here in the past, and I don't know if there has been any recently. So just kind of be aware of that.
Okay. Cool. Thanks for getting me up here, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been wanting to come up here for a while, and he's told me years ago that I could.